All right, hello, and welcome to this episode where we're going to talk about how to help a loved one with OCD and anxiety. And we're going to talk about this idea of maintaining our focus on the common enemy, right? And so for those of you that don't know me, my name's Matt Cotty, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Restored Minds and the creator of the AAA Response. And in this episode, I really want to talk about the importance of grounding the team, so to speak, or the family unit on the common goal and the common enemy that we are all facing. Because a lot of times, what can happen is, when our loved one is dealing with OCD and anxiety. And so just by the way, if this is, if you're new to this series, we've been building on this series, right? So the series is all about family members and loved ones, how they can support someone who has OCD. And so if you have OCD, this is a good thing to share with your family. And if you are a loved one of someone with OCD, please make sure you listen to these in order because, they kind of build on themselves. So, we talked about the idea of taking care of yourself. We've talked about the idea of reassurance. We've talked about the idea of what to do when things are getting emotional or really heightened emotions are rising up. And now I want to just talk about a really simple kind of idea, but very important. And it's the idea of reminding ourselves what the real problem is, right? We talked about, obviously, the goal, reminding ourselves what the goal is, but also who we're all fighting against. Because, one of the things that I think OCD and anxiety does very well is when we're looking at stuff through that lens, we villainize each other, right? So what I mean by that is that if someone, let's say, is asking their mother or father for reassurance and they have OCD and that's their big compulsion that they do, and then the mother and father says, well, they're just being so annoying because, they just keep asking me the same question. I've told them the answer like 1,200 times, and they just keep asking and keep asking. And they start to look at their child as like, a nuisance and ultimately start to get resentful. And then the person with OCD starts to get, upset with their parents because they're not giving them the answer to get them the relief. What can happen is you start to really look at each other in a very skewed, negative way. And this creates a lot of tension and friction and problems in family structures. And we need to remember that it's never the family member that is the problem. Either way, right? So from the child to the parent, or the parent to the child, or the husband to the wife, or the wife to the husband, or, whatever, husband to husband, it doesn't matter. The point is, or even, brothers and sisters, right? Whatever it is, it's not the person. Right? And we need to remember that. Like what we're frustrated about is the behavior that we're experiencing. Okay? So one of the things that we can always do is remind ourselves that is the behavior is what's causing us frustration, not the person. Because if you think it's the person, what you'll do oftentimes is you'll end up saying things that are hurtful and attacking the individual themselves. But you're not frustrated at the individual, you're frustrated at the person. Just in the same way, so calling out I think I said that right. You're frustrated at the behavior is what I was trying to say. So and any parent out there and anyone else, if you're not a parent, it's okay. We can acknowledge this, but when your child is doing something that is frustrating to you, it's important to call out the behavior and explain that the behavior is frustrating with you, because you don't want them to think that they are the frustration. It's what they're doing, how they're choosing to behave. And when you can identify it as a behavior, right, and really state that that's the thing you're frustrated at, what that does is that it kind of, it's changeable, right? I mean, it's something we can address. When it's the person, it's like, well, if they think they're the problem, you see how they're going to get defensive over that. A behavior, though, we can start to understand it because we can change our behavior, right? We can actually alter that, which means we can work to solve the problem together. So identifying the behavior as the issue, whichever one, is important. So, and this can go both ways. Like I said, if the person's asking you for reassurance, you can say like, look, man, it's really frustrating me that you keep asking me the same question because I know this is making you worse. And even the person with OCD can be articulate enough to say, hey, look, I get really stressed when you don't give me reassurance because my anxiety's heightened up. Okay, so that's what you're frustrated about. Great. But now we know that, and because we can identify that common enemy that we are both facing, that is the invisible enemy in the room called OCD and anxiety, well, then what we can do is we can work together to overcome that, right? We can actually align ourselves against that, right? One of the most conniving things that OCD does is it pins people against each other. Now, I don't know if you guys I was going to say a reference from the show Game of Thrones, but Sansa and Arya are these two sisters, and this guy, his name's escaping me right now, but he's trying to pin the sisters against each other, and they kind of realize it and ultimately like kind of trap them. But it's the same kind of thing. Like OCD is very good at pinning people against each other without ever even realizing that it's happening. And once we can remember that we have this common enemy, right, we can actually work to come together and actually can bring us closer to work against it, right? And so just reminding yourself of that common enemy that we're both facing and that it's impacting both of us. I think that's the thing to remind the person is like, they aren't the only person struggling, right? And because you want to support them in their long term, like we want to align with them on that common long-term goal of recovery. So hopefully that makes sense, because again, it's so powerful once you can identify that common enemy and identify that third party in the room that no one sees, and realizing that it's kind of pinning you guys against each other. I just know so many times when I've sat down with like family units, I've come out into like, one of the things I do is come out to houses and like give presentations and stuff to really just help identify all the different accommodations and all the ways that everyone can support each other. I mean, it's such an eye-opening experience when we can really identify that OCD. That's why often, I'll teach people to name the OCD, right? To give it that name, to really personify it in many ways so that we understand what we're working against. So, I'll keep this episode pretty short and straightforward. But for those of you that are looking for additional resources and help, we have some right down in the notes below, and you have some over at restoredminds.com, where we're here to help you with OCD and anxiety. That's what we do all day, every day. So we have our digital programs as well as our coaching services. So if that's something that you're looking for, like, please head over to restoredminds.com and contact us. And also, please help us out by giving us a like, a subscribe, and even sharing this on your social platforms, because this really helps get that information out to people that are struggling, because this isn't something that has to be a life sentence. Like, this is a loop that you can break, and it really is just about having the right skill set and right tools in your tool belt. So thank you so much for hanging out today. I hope you guys have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you in the last part of this series, where we're going to talk about what to do when a loved one won't get help. So see you guys over there, and I'll have a great week. Bye. Thank you so much for watching that video. And so if you're struggling with OCD and anxiety, I just wanted to let you know that we have a free training for you over at Restored Minds, where you can start learning how to use our AAA response to really break out of that loop and ultimately take back control of your life. And all you need to do to access is just click the little link below, and you'll be taken to a page where you can register today. Thank you so much.